There's a photograph that doesn't exist anymore. It was taken in 1967 at a private estate in Switzerland. 16 men seated around a table. No names recorded, no official reason for the meeting. But if you knew what to look for, you'd recognize 3 future presidents, 2 central bank governors, and the CEO of what would become the world's largest pharmaceutical company. The photograph was destroyed in 1982, but one copy survived, hidden in the personal files of a journalist who died under suspicious circumstances. On the back of that photograph, written in fountain pen, were 5 words. They chose the one who smiled. In the photo, only one man is smiling. His name was Marcus Holloway. 48 hours after that photograph was taken, Marcus Holloway resigned from his position as a university ethics professor. He told his colleagues he'd accepted a private consulting role. He told his wife he'd be traveling frequently. He told his children he'd explain when they were older. He never did. Because 6 years later, Marcus Holloway walked into his study, locked the door, and put a bullet through his head. His suicide note contained only one sentence: "I thought I could bear the weight of knowing." The police ruled it a straightforward suicide, depression, work stress. But here's what they didn't investigate. In the 6 years between that photograph and his death, Marcus Holloway had been present in unofficial capacities at 17 major geopolitical events: the fall of a government in South America, a currency collapse in Asia, the sudden resolution of a conflict in the Middle East that experts said would last decades. He was never credited, never mentioned in any official capacity. But if you trace the financial transactions, the policy recommendations, the quietly withdrawn opposition, Marcus Holloway's fingerprints are everywhere. He didn't just observe history, he sculpted it, and it destroyed him. This is the story of what happens when ordinary men are given the power to shape the world. When they discover that morality is not a fixed law, but a negotiable boundary. When they learn that every choice made at the highest levels requires someone to sacrifice something, and that someone is almost never the person making the choice. This is the story of the throne no man should seek, the position that has no name, the power that demands everything and offers nothing but the cold satisfaction of necessity. Let me tell you about a pattern that shouldn't exist. Between 1958 and 2021, there have been 31 individuals who held what we'll call strategic advisory positions. These positions don't appear in any government directory. They're not appointed by elected officials. They have no term limits and no public accountability, but they exist. We know they exist because of the trails they leave: financial anomalies, policy shifts that happen simultaneously across unconnected nations, crises that resolve in statistically impossible ways, and most tellingly, the people themselves. Every single one of these 31 individuals followed the same trajectory. They were academics, lawyers, economists, strategists, brilliant but not famous, successful but not powerful. And then something changed. They received an offer, not a job, an invitation. And within months of accepting, 3 things happened. First, they disappeared from public life. Not literally, but they stopped publishing, stopped attending conferences, stopped engaging in the debates that had defined their careers. They became ghosts in their own fields. Second, their wealth increased dramatically. Not through salaries, through investments that seemed to predict market movements before they happened, through real estate purchases in cities that would boom years later, through opportunities that appeared at exactly the right moment. And third, they aged faster than they should have. Look at photographs taken 5 years apart. The change is unmistakable. It's not normal aging. It's something else, a hollowing out, as if something essential is being consumed from the inside. One of these individuals, a woman named Dr. Elizabeth Vance, left behind a journal that was discovered after her death. She had been a renowned political theorist specializing in democratic institutions. In her journal, written 3 years after accepting her position, she wrote this: "I used to believe that power corrupted because it allowed people to indulge their worst impulses. I was wrong. Power corrupts because it forces you to acknowledge truths that decent society depends on never speaking aloud. The truth that some lives matter more than others. The truth that stability requires sacrifice. The truth that someone must decide who suffers so that the system survives. I have become that someone, and I cannot unknow what I now know." Dr. Vance died at 57. The official cause was heart failure, but her final journal entry, written the night before her death, said simply, "I cannot carry this anymore. Let someone else bear the weight." So how does someone become part of this hidden architecture of power? The process is more sophisticated than you'd imagine. It doesn't begin with an invitation. It begins with observation. For years, sometimes decades, certain individuals are watched, not by government agencies, not by corporations, by something older and more patient. Their decisions are analyzed, their moral boundaries tested through situations that seem like random chance, but aren't. A lawyer is given a case where winning requires using a legal technicality that will destroy an innocent person's life. Does she use it? An economist is asked to recommend a policy that will save millions but require the deliberate impoverishment of thousands. Does he recommend it? A strategist discovers classified information that could prevent a war but would expose intelligence sources and cost lives. Does she reveal it or stay silent? These aren't hypothetical scenarios, they're engineered tests. And the people who pass, who demonstrate the capacity to make the hard choice without hesitation, without visible guilt, they get noticed. In 2003, a man named David Keller was working as a risk analyst for a major investment bank. He discovered that one of the bank's largest clients was running a Ponzi scheme that would eventually collapse and destroy thousands of retirement accounts. He had irrefutable evidence. He could have stopped it. But he ran the numbers and realized that exposing it immediately would trigger a cascade that could destabilize multiple markets. So he stayed silent for 18 months, carefully positioning the bank to minimize damage when the inevitable collapse came. He saved the bank. He saved the broader financial system, and thousands of people lost everything because he delayed. The Ponzi scheme collapsed exactly as he'd predicted. The bank survived. David Keller was never investigated, never blamed, never publicly connected to the decision. But 6 months after the collapse, he received a phone call. The voice on the other end said only this: "You made the rational choice. Most people can't. We'd like to discuss what else you're capable of." He met them, he listened, and he accepted. Today, David Keller's name appears nowhere in public records. His old colleagues believe he retired to somewhere in Europe. His ex-wife hasn't heard from him in 12 years. But financial analysts have noticed something strange. In every major economic crisis since 2004, there have been moves made, small adjustments in policy and positioning, that suggest someone knew exactly what was coming and was managing the controlled demolition. David Keller is 59 years old. If the pattern holds, he has less than a decade left, and somewhere they're already watching his replacement. Now let me tell you what these positions actually do, because this isn't conspiracy. This is architecture. The world you live in, the civilization you take for granted, is far too complex to function through the visible systems of government and economics alone. There are too many moving parts, too many competing interests, too many points of potential failure. So there exists, and has existed for centuries, a shadow structure. Not a government, not an organization with meetings and hierarchies. Something more fluid and more permanent. A network of individuals in positions that have no names, making decisions that have no public record, ensuring that the machinery continues to function. They don't control everything. That's not how it works. They manage pressure points. They see the patterns that others miss. They identify the moments where a small intervention can prevent catastrophic failure or guide development in a particular direction. And they act without hesitation because hesitation at that level costs lives. Here's an example. In 1997, the Asian financial crisis threatened to become a global meltdown. You remember the official story. International organizations intervened. Markets stabilized. But what you don't know is that 48 hours before the intervention, a series of phone calls were made between individuals who officially had no connection to each other. Agreements were reached, resources were quietly repositioned, and when the official intervention happened, it worked perfectly because the groundwork had already been laid in conversations that never officially occurred. Who made those calls? People in positions like Marcus Holloway held, like Dr. Elizabeth Vance held, like David Keller holds now. They don't appear on organization charts. They don't testify before committees. They simply exist in the spaces between official power, doing the work that official power cannot acknowledge. And the cost of doing this work is always the same. You lose the ability to see individuals. You begin to see only systems. A family devastated by a policy decision becomes a data point in a larger calculation. A community destroyed by economic restructuring becomes an acceptable cost for regional stability. You don't become cruel, you become something worse. You become efficient. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He wrote that the prince must learn to be bad when necessity demands it. But what he didn't say, what perhaps he couldn't say, is that once you learn to be bad when necessary, you lose the ability to distinguish between necessity and convenience. The hard choices become easier, and that ease is how you know you've been hollowed out. There's a room that exists in 7 locations around the world. I won't tell you where because it doesn't matter. The room is always the same. Simple, no luxury, no grandeur, just a table, chairs, and walls that block all electronic surveillance. In these rooms, at irregular intervals, small groups gather. Never more than 5, never the same configuration twice. They don't make laws, they don't issue orders. They discuss problems that the public will never hear about, scenarios that keep them awake at night, choices that have no good options, only degrees of terrible. A water crisis is developing in Central Asia that will displace millions. Do they allow the natural catastrophe and manage the refugee flow? Or do they intervene early through methods that would be called imperialism if anyone knew about them? A pharmaceutical company has developed a treatment that could save thousands of lives, but would bankrupt healthcare systems in developing nations. Do they suppress the treatment, allow limited distribution, or accept the economic collapse that full distribution would cause? A small nation is developing weapons capability that threatens regional stability. Do they engineer regime change, accept the threat, or find a third option that will require people to die in ways that can never be connected back to a decision made in this room? These aren't theoretical debates. These are actual choices being made by people who have accepted that someone must make them. And the people who make these choices, who sit in these rooms, they all share one characteristic. They're capable of living with the consequences. Not comfortably, but they can bear the weight. Most people can't. Most people would break under the knowledge of what they've chosen. The faces they'll never see, the names they'll never know, the lives that ended or were destroyed because of a decision made in a windowless room based on calculations that reduced human suffering to acceptable percentages. That's the throne. Not power in any romantic sense. Not the ability to command armies or shape civilizations in your image. Just the cold, endless burden of making decisions that everyone benefits from, but no one can ever thank you for because they can never know you made them. Marcus Holloway, the man from the photograph, the one who smiled, left behind a letter that was never sent. It was found in his desk after his death, addressed to no one. In it, he tried to explain what 6 years in that position had done to him. He wrote, "I've saved millions of lives through decisions I made. I know this with certainty. I've also condemned thousands through those same decisions. I know this too. The mathematics are clear. The utilitarian calculus is straightforward. More people alive because of choices I influenced. The world more stable. Systems more functional. But here's what no one tells you. Here's what you can't understand until you've sat in that chair and made those choices. The faces of the thousands haunt you in ways the millions never comfort you. You can know intellectually that you made the right choice. You can prove it with numbers and projections and counterfactuals. But late at night, you don't see the millions you saved. You see the mother who lost her child because of a policy you recommended. You see the man who killed himself because of an economic decision you influenced. You see the specific, granular horror of individual suffering that your abstract wisdom caused. And you can't unfeel it. You can't unknow the direct line between your decision and their pain. The throne doesn't corrupt you. It reveals that you're capable of bearing this knowledge. And that capability is its own kind of damnation. Marcus Holloway put a bullet through his head 6 weeks after writing that letter. But here's what's important. His position didn't end with his death. Within 3 months, someone else had taken his place. The work continued. The decisions still had to be made. The throne remained occupied. Because the throne isn't about the individual, it's about the function. And the function is eternal. Right now, as you hear these words, someone is sitting in a room making a decision that will shape your life. You won't know about it. You won't vote on it. You'll simply experience the consequences years from now and assume it was natural economic forces or political evolution, or historical inevitability. It wasn't. It was a person in a position that has no name, making a choice that balanced variables you'll never see, optimizing for outcomes you'll never understand, accepting costs that will never be publicly acknowledged. And that person is dying inside. Not quickly, not dramatically, but with each decision, something essential is consumed. The ability to see humans rather than systems. The capacity to feel rather than calculate. The soul, if you believe in such things, slowly burning away like fuel that keeps the machinery running. The question isn't whether these positions should exist. The question is whether you would accept one if offered. If you discovered you had the capacity to sit in that chair, to make those choices, to bear that weight, would you do it? Would you sacrifice your humanity to save millions of people who will never know your name? Would you become the architect of suffering in service of stability? Would you accept that the throne requires everything you are and offers nothing but the cold knowledge that you were necessary? Most people say no. They say they would refuse. They say the cost is too high. But statistics tell a different story. Of everyone who has ever been offered these positions, 93% accept. Because when you're told you have the capacity to shape the world, when you're shown the machinery and offered the levers of control, something primal responds. Something ambitious. Something that believes you'll be different. You'll bear the weight without breaking. You'll make the hard choices and somehow remain human. They all believe that. Marcus Holloway believed it. Dr. Elizabeth Vance believed it. David Keller probably still believes it. And they're all being consumed by the same process. Because the throne doesn't care what you believe. It only cares whether you can function. And when you can't anymore, when you're used up, when the weight finally crushes you, the throne simply moves on to someone else. It's been waiting for centuries. It'll wait for centuries more. Patient, hungry, always ready for the next person who's capable of sitting in it. The next person who thinks they're strong enough, smart enough, moral enough. The next person who doesn't yet understand that the throne reveals what you are, and what you are is fuel. They're watching right now, observing how people make decisions. Who can compartmentalize? Who can calculate? Who can sacrifice the few for the many without visible hesitation? The tests are happening all around you, in boardrooms and courtrooms and hospital ethics committees. In moments where the right choice and the kind choice diverge, they're watching who chooses efficiency over compassion, stability over justice, necessary evil over comfortable paralysis. If you're the type of person who can make those choices, you've already been noticed. The invitation hasn't come yet, but it will. And when it does, you'll face the same decision everyone before you faced. Accept the throne and lose yourself, or refuse it and spend the rest of your life wondering what you could have become. Either way, the throne wins, because it doesn't need everyone to accept. It only needs enough. And there are always enough. There have been for 500 years. There will be for 500 more. The throne no man should seek is always occupied, and it's always waiting for the next occupant. Perhaps that's you. Perhaps you're already being prepared. Perhaps the tests have already begun and you don't even realize it. Or perhaps you're one of the lucky ones, the ones who lack the capacity, the ones who will never be invited because they'll never pass the tests, the ones who get to remain human because they were never capable of becoming anything else. Is that lucky? Or is it just another form of insignificance? The throne knows, but it's not telling.